Hi Anna. So everyone on the team got a clay kit and they're showing me what they're making, and I wanted to check in with you and see what you've been up to with your clay kit.
Hi Gina. So I got my clay kit and immediately I was feeling overwhelmed. And I know a lot of people, when they get these kits, they're like, I'm not creative and I can't really make anything, or last time I tried to make something, it didn't turn out. And I was just having one of those days. So I decided to make these little ring dishes. And I just used a dish I had in my pantry to make them. So that's what my video is going to be about. Hope you enjoy it. So here's my work surface. You can work on a kitchen countertop. I brought some water, some of the clay kit tools, and I got these two colors. This is actually red and white. I don't love them. I'm setting them aside right now. First thing I'm going to use is a knife to cut up my clay, and some of these other clay kit tools I'm not going to need for this. I do need a rolling pin, however. And I like to always have a little rag and the plastic nearby. So this is the plate I'm going to use. It's actually by Heath. It's a small snack dish. I cut up as much clay. It's about a handful I need for this size bowl. And take your time to shape it. First, just using your hands and fingers into a round shape. And then you'll use your rolling pin. Use this a few times, and I like to make it a little bit bigger than the plate itself. We'll cut that excess off later, so kind of check it. I'm going to go a little wider, and I'm not worried about the edges at all. Those will get smoothed out later. But the thickness, you do want to keep it at about 1/4 inch. You can use this to smooth out any rough spots you might have. You'll have a different shape in your clay kit, but you don't have to do this part. Here, I'm just going to use my knife. You can use an X-Acto or the pin or the needle tool, but anything just to cut that off. And now is when you want to smooth out those edges a bit. There you go. When you flip it over, it's going to be the exact size of the bowl. Peel that off gently. And now you can put it directly in the bowl. It's good to put some cornstarch down first so it doesn't stick. One thing to note is that the clay will shrink. So as you put it in the bowl, it'll dry within a few hours and you'll be able to pop it out. And notice how much smaller it is than the actual bowl. Now, if you're impatient and you don't want to wait a few hours, you can put some plastic down and put your clay inside of that and then just pop it off together with the plastic. But notice how you get those little plastic marks. You can smooth those out. Here's a few different ways to do that. Use the rib, use a little tiny bit of water and a sponge, and here we go. Again, I'm impatient, so I am going to use the plastic and super gently go all the way around and press that clay into the bowl so it slowly takes on the shape of the bowl, and just keep going round. You can kind of smooth out the edges as you go, but don't worry about the edges until a little bit later. Just kind of gently get it pressed into the bowl. You will have to wait a bit for this to dry, and you want it to dry slowly, so you're going to cover it with some plastic. And then once it's dry, it'll come out and it'll be leather hard, at which point you can sand those edges. Do this gently because you don't want to break your piece. And now we're ready to paint. So I've got this red color. It looks pink, but it's red and white. Not my favorite colors, but we'll put it to good use. Make sure there's no dust on your piece. And I'm just starting out with some dots. I mixed the red and white to get some pink. I did a layer of pink dots, then a layer of red and white. And I kind of like how this is looking. It's my first one. Now I'm ready to do more. So I'm going to roll out a few more of these and just kind of put them aside, wrap them in plastic so they don't dry out. And I'm going to mix some of the red and white underglaze. And here I'm just pouring them together and sort of swirling it around. You can fill in the extra spots with the brush. For my third design, I want to try something geometric, so I'm using some tape. The tape won't stick on perfectly. You really just want to use the tape as a guide. And filling in some fields of color here, I've got my mixed color, pink, red, and white again. You'll have different colors, so see what you can do with what you've got. Pull the tape off very gently. And again, it's not perfect. You can go back in and scrape some of those excess paint edges off. And you can also use your brush with just water to kind of clean that up. Use very little water here because again, your plates are very delicate. I'm going to put another stripe in here. Going straight with the red. And then I kind of want to break up this pattern, so I'm going to splatter some underglaze. All right, now I'm taking those extra pieces, going through the steps again, cutting the shape, smoothing it out, pressing them into the bowls. It's kind of a summary of where we started. I pull those shapes out, and when they're leather hard, I'm just going to scrape and sand the edges and smooth out the edges and the underside very gently again. The bowls are very delicate at this stage. And I like the pouring system. So this time I'm going to pour directly into the bowl. And right away, I know I don't like this as much because the paint is really thick. And if your paint is kind of as thick as mine, you're going to want to go back to mixing your paint in a bowl with a little bit of water first. You do want this paint to go on thick, but not too thick. Kind of think of it as a credit card thickness. So this is better. Like kind of pour your paints into a bowl, add a few drops of water. If it's too thick, the underglaze, it kind of cakes onto the bowl, and when it fires, it might get a little bit of a texture, which you may not want. Use your brush to spread it around, and if you do have any excess paint, you're going to want to pour that off. So like I'm doing here, I'm just going to pour some of it out so it's not too thick. There we go. I've got some bubbles in this one. If you get bubbles, you can just take a needle tool or even a needle or a knife and just pop those out. It won't show. Just fill them in with the paint. And set them aside to dry. Follow the instructions for returning them. The first step we do once we get your pieces back is we fire it in the kiln. This is the first firing, how it looks. And it's after that that we glaze them. And we're going to glaze them with a clear gloss and fire them again, which is why it takes a while. And here's my result.